Hello and welcome to another episode of Workplace Wizards. This is episode number 35, Adapting Leadership Styles. And what we are going to talk about today is how do we change our leadership styles in ways that benefit those people we're trying to lead. All right, and today we have with us my lovely wife, Sandra. You want to say hello, Sandra?
Hi, everybody. Nice to be with you today.
And not only did we have just Sandra, we have a second gift. We're bringing to the stage live from London, England, is Gavin Wong.
Hi, how are we all doing?
Hi, Gavin. Doing
Hi,
well.
good to see you all.
All right. Well, like we said, Gavin, for the last couple of episodes, we've been talking about communication and how we adapt our communication and how we communicate effectively amongst different styles. But that's just communication. Now we want to talk a little bit about how do you be a leader? How do you adapt your leadership styles to different focuses that you have to take on?
Yeah, and I think it's a really good subject to talk about because we've talked about having that emotional intelligence and understanding people, and I think that's important. But in terms of leadership style, we will always have our preferences in terms of how we want to perform. And we know that we can assess the way we work by looking at DISC profiles or other types of profiles. So we know that we have preferences. But the better leaders will be the agile ones, the ones that can adapt and change slightly. They might still have a preference, but they'll be able to do things slightly differently. And that might be because of the team that you take over or that you or just develops, that they are just different people and their own different backgrounds, or you take over a team in a different environment, and therefore you have to adapt the way you work just to suit that those new conditions. So really, the adaptability of how you lead is actually crucial.
When you said that, Gavin, I'm reminded of a time of transitioning from an academic work environment to a corporate work environment. And the new team, when I transitioned 3 years ago, was very S-oriented. And those of you familiar with DISC, and Arnell and Gavin have been talking about DISC for weeks, but very people-oriented and really want recognition and thrive with that. That helps them to move forward. But coming from the academic environment, I was more, letter of the law, and we've got to do A, B, and C. And so I really had to shift and adapt and recognize that S personalities, even though I'm an S, I just really needed to shift to thinking about stopping and getting to know people and really understand what their needs are first. And that's very S to do, very social style to do. And then we could move forward. So people really felt they wanted and needed to be known. And so that was one adaptation I'd say I had to make in a work transition.
And was there a lot of change for you internally about how you dealt with that?
It was, because I'm very internally driven, even though I'm an S2 and I love to connect people to get the work done. But I'm not necessarily in need of, let me sit down and have coffee with you. I love to be able to check the boxes and say, okay, we got that done. That gives me excitement to get the work done, when others are really excited by that conversation first. They want that coffee time. They want that time to be able to think that you care about them. And that's so essential, especially for certain generations too. Finding, especially since COVID, that younger generations are really wanting you to take time to get to know them. And that's essential for leaders to really understand.
Yeah, no, that's a really good observation. I think because I'm a higher S, but also sort of supported by being a high I. So I would be the one that wants to go and have a coffee and have a chat with somebody.
Right.
I know I have had good feedback about people saying, "Oh, you always want to talk to us," but part of that is because often when you take over a new team or you go into a new department, if you don't, you need to find out about the department.
Yeah.
For me, the only way to really do that is to talk to people and try and understand things from their perspective. Because whatever happens, we always, the higher up you get in an organization, you think you know what happens on the front line, but you don't really, because you forget and things change, and also because people want to tell you good news, don't they? They don't want to upset you, so they kind of, there's that kind of I can't remember the phrase now, but they want to just give you good news, but actually that's not always the honesty.
Right. Yes.
So you better connect with people and actually just have that chat, and so they feel relaxed and trust you that they can give you their actual perspective with some honesty. And I think that's, for me, it's important why you need to, well, I've always spoken to people in terms of trying to find out what's really going on. And it seems to be, and because that builds trust, doesn't it? And we know that, you're going to be a good.
That's the essential key. That word right there. Yes. Yeah. When you have that trust, then people can feel like you're being transparent with them. They're more likely to do. What's that saying about people don't care how much you know?
People don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yes.
And here's the funny thing. You guys are both S's. Now, Sandy, you tend to be an S/C, being a little bit more conscientious. And Gavin's at S/I, where he's a little bit more of an influencer. Like he said, he likes to sit down and have that coffee, and he wants to be that little sappy person who wants to know a little bit more about what you're doing and everything else. Well, I'm a D, and I'm a strong D, and all of that S stuff is a far reach for me. However, I do lead teams where my teams are S's, because we're in the like with our food drive. I help lead a church food drive where all of the people are there to give. All of the people are there to help others. And so at that time when I'm leading them, I can't be that strong D all the time, because remember, these are volunteers. They would all leave me if I was like that. So I have to stretch to be that S. I have to stretch to be that person to say, hey, how's everybody doing? How's everybody feeling? And then try to work with people. And that's that adapting that leadership style, because I can't come in there hard nosed and be like, hey, all right, we need 15 of these here. We need this done here. We need this done there. Yeah, I could do that. But then again, once I said, these are volunteers. How many volunteers I'm going to have left at the end of the year if I were to take on that style or my style and push it on everybody else?
Well, that's the adaptation, because you weren't like that when you first started.
That's true.
So the adaptation was really understanding, wow, if I don't shift, I'm going to lose some volunteers.
Yeah, so that's really important. I mean, a couple of things there. One, interesting that you must be a high I, though. I must be quite high, because you're charismatic. You're quite infectious, aren't you? So
I'm not sappy, Gavin. I'm not sappy.
I'm complimenting you. You're charismatic. But the thing is that you think about the DISC profiles, their behaviors, so you can change them. I think that's important. So within your current environment, you can be agile and go up and slightly and be aware, but actually you can actually work on them. So if you change a job where the job is very all about compliance and processes, and the computer says no and all that kind of stuff, you need to be able to adapt. And it's hard for some people. And some things, if you're extreme D profile, it's hard to change that, but you can change other bits. So you can adjust the way you work. And I said to you earlier that I retired from law enforcement after 30 years, and I did okay. I managed some pretty hefty teams and a lot of responsibility, and I moved into a small team doing leadership training, and I was very conscious not to go in there with my not the baggage, but my experience from my previous role where I was quite senior, and then over. So I consciously made a decision not to be a high D. Probably I'm not a high D anyway, but I've made a conscious decision to be lower. So my profile when I started is probably reflects the attitude I was taking to that new role. And I think, and I might even redo it, soon, just to see where I am in terms of that journey, because we can change, which is good, because people need to be prepared to change, because we're not all perfect, and environments, don't they?
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, and I think if we're not prepared to, one of the things about, and I'm quite keen on this in terms of being able to change your leadership style, not just reflecting on people, but also the environment you're working with, because sometimes environments are actually quite complex and there's no single answer. But if you go in with the attitude that you think you need to know the answer all the time, actually you're not going to come out with the right answer.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
To other people are often the people that work for you, but you've got to be brave enough to allow them and give them space to actually come up with the answers, and for me, that's sometimes where you need to adapt your style to reflect where you are. And it might even be not even the role you're doing. It might just be a specific project that you're involved in, that actually generally you're doing this style, but for this bit of work here, you've got to change.
Right.
Yeah.
Being,
And I think if we really stop and think about it, it's having all of those styles within us.
Exactly.
Because we'll look at the context, which is the word you used before we were on. The context matters. And also, according to a leadership theory, situational leadership by Hersey and Blanchard, it also matters how prepared or ready are the people. Because those new to the job, you have to be a little bit more direct and tell them. But those who really have the ability but might not be as willing, you kind of coach.
Yes.
And then those who are really willing and ready to go, you're going to start delegating.
Yes.
So we have to adapt that way too, according to the context and how willing and ready someone is to do the job that they're there to do.
Yeah, and even that's complicated because that situational leadership style that you're just describing there is that we have new recruits into law enforcement, and we often think, oh, they're this D1, they're highly low competence but high commitment. But actually, they might actually be highly competent in certain areas of the business.
Yes.
Right. Actually, might be able to coach them or delegate to them in something
early. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, early on because they've got prior experience. So it's constantly juggling.
I want to touch on something Sandy said just a little bit ago. She said that we all have those qualities within us, and that's the true fact. Some people they'll get their DISC profile and say, "Oh, I'm a D, and I'm nothing but a D, and I only have D in me." No, that's not true, Gavin. You just said it yourself. You're a strong S. You're high I, and you don't have a lot of C and D in you, but you do have some in you, and therefore sometimes you have to tap into that little bit of D that you have in order to address certain situations. And same as for me, being a strong D, sometimes I have to tap into that little bit of S that I have, but not be sappy, and then be able to address certain situations. So
absolutely. And there are times when I have had to be high D, but that would be for a specific, probably risk thing. Something's happening, life threatening. Like, there's no time to be sappy.
We're going to talk about that in another episode.
Yes, sounds good. And likewise, I've had to be a strong D with having a C-suite level position and being able to really decision make quickly, or to be able to take what an executive is saying, this is the direction we need to go, and move it quickly. So there are times where we do have to, and I think that level of adaptability, that is a whole nother level. But to be successful in certain positions, you have to be able to make those quick shifts.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to stop us right now, Gavin. I'm going to stop us right now, Gavin, because we're approaching that time limit. And I know you two want to continue on, and I would love to have you guys back to continue on a little bit. Gavin, congratulations on moving, selling your house and buying another house. And hopefully it doesn't interfere with you joining us for the next couple of episodes. So we look forward to having you as much as you can be there, but we do understand if there's time you can't be there. But to our audience, hey, all you HR people, we're definitely trying to be here for you guys. We're trying to give you as much as we can about leadership and self-awareness, your social awareness, your how do you self-regulate, all of your emotional intelligence. We're trying to give you those, as well as human behavior styles and how you can adjust them and be better leaders. So for now, we're going to say goodbye. I'm Arnold Smalley.
Sandy Smalley.
Gavin Wong. Bye-bye.
And we're all going to say goodbye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.